Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Timeless Musings and this is the 2026 Yes, No, or Maybe reading series. In this series, I will be going over 12 months worth of reading, going through all the books that I've read in the previous month, who they're by, and telling you whether I would recommend them with a yes, no, or maybe. The catch here is that I will also be giving you reasons why I recommend or don't recommend these, as well as who I might recommend these for. The series is an answer to a question that I've long wondered about the yes, no, or maybe, which is why. Why do certain content creators recommend a book? Why do they hate books, etc.? Trying to find the answers and hopefully get some more personalized reading suggestions for books that maybe I wouldn't have thought to check out before. In this series, as I said, I will be going monthly to look at all the books that I've read in the previous month. The disclaimer that I will give you at the beginning here is these are just my opinions. You may love these books, you may hate these books. They are for you to determine. This is just whether I would recommend them based on my experience reading. Another obligatory disclaimer, it is not necessarily normal to read this amount of books, but I've had a lot of free time this year and I've spent all of it reading and listening to audiobooks and picking up physical books. So, with all those disclaimers out of the way, let's get into the next month of the 2026 reading challenge with another handful of books, who they're by, and whether I would tell you to read them yes, no, or maybe. For the first book in this yes, no, or maybe part, we are going to be talking about The Lion Women of Tehran. This, for me, is a yes. I absolutely recommend this book. Kamali is a auto-buy author for me at this point. I read The Stationery Shop years ago, loved it. I've now read this, absolutely loved it. For me, what really brought this book to life is the generational saga. I am a huge fan of stories and characters being interconnected throughout a book so that we can follow them through generations, and that is exactly what this book achieves. That is just something to me that is very difficult to do well, but I think that Kamali really nails it. And I also just think that the cultural depiction and the effort that Kamali puts into their works is beautiful. I love the way that she writes. I love the kind of connection between the characters and the settings and what's going on in the world around them. So for me, The Lion Women of Tehran is a yes. Next up, we have the book Her One Regret, and this is a no for me. I think that this book did a great job and took great care discussing things like motherhood and postpartum depression and the invisible emotional labor that is typically put on the pregnant partner in a relationship. I think that that was well done, but overall, I just didn't enjoy the book. I think it was really forgettable in the end. It almost felt a little bit like it was trying to be Gone Girl in a way, sort of like the Gone Girl kind of, what's the other book? I think it's called Tradwife is the other book. That's kind of what it was giving, but I don't think it really executed it very well. And ultimately, I think that there are better mom horror books out there, some of which I will actually talk about later in this series. I just don't think that this was worth the time that it took me to read it. I didn't feel like I left feeling absolutely enamored with this book, so I'm gonna go with no. Next up, we are going to be looking at my favorite read of the year so far, and that is Women of a Promiscuous Nature by Donna Everhart. This is an absolute yes. I think that this is a must read. I think it should be required reading. The book follows the America Act, which punished promiscuous women who were deemed women that were harmful to the greater society, whether that was because they were LGBTQI plus identifying, or they lived alone, or they flirted with soldiers during the First and Second World War. This book is just brilliant. It's something I didn't know about. I've studied feminist theory and I hadn't heard of this act, so I do think that this should be required reading, and I just love the way that Donna Everhart writes. The multi POVs in this really bring this book together. It's one that as soon as it ended, I wanted to read it again. So this is a yes. I think that you should give this book a go. Sticking to the kind of feminist horror, next up is Red Clocks. This to me is a no. I got this in a book advent calendar last year that I got from Second & Charles, and I really didn't like this book at all. This is my favorite genre, but this is my least favorite book in that genre, so I hope that kind of tells you how little I thought of this book. I think that it went on too long for how little you got out of it, and what really bothered me is the fact that what happened in the end, the way it concluded, happened in about 2 chapters. So the rest of the chapters didn't really matter in the end. I personally didn't connect with the characters at all, and I think that there are better sci-fi feminist horror books, including classics like The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments, as well as even like a book that I'll talk about later, which is Paradise Logic. I don't think that Red Clocks is worth your time at all. Staying with thrillers, my next recommendation is My Husband's Wife, which I'm giving a no, I do not recommend this. When I got to the end of this book, I was genuinely surprised at how much I had to suspend disbelief. Everything in this book is so convenient that it worked out. I just don't buy that this actually would really happen. I feel like with realistic thrillers, there has to be at least something that I'm like, okay, I could see how that happened. This book felt so convenient. It felt like all these people just happened to know each other and like, isn't that lucky? It really irked me in the end. And it also didn't stand out to me. I feel like the whole like missing wife thing has been done a million times, a million ways. My Husband's Wife didn't have anything that I sort of was like, wow, that's really unique and different. It was just okay, but it was so convenient that I really felt like I didn't gain anything reading it. Next up, we have the prequel to my favorite historical romance series ever. This book is Nice Earls Do by Susanna Craig. Contrary to popular belief, I'm actually going to give this one a no. I personally only gave this a 2 stars. I thought it was just okay. You can read the rest of the series without reading the prequel. The prequel is just, I don't think you need to read it. All the information you get in the prequel is slowly revealed through the other books in the trilogy, so I don't think you need to waste your time with this. In fact, I think that it actually would have been better if Susanna Craig had slipped this into book 1. But the prequel itself, like I said, you're not actually missing out by not reading it. So for that reason, I would say I don't recommend this. There's also a romance in the prequel between characters who are important in the series for what they do, but they're not terribly important, if that makes sense. And that romance happened way too quick to be believable for me, so I don't recommend Nice Earls Do. On the subject of romance, next up is One and Only, which came out earlier this year, and I listened to the audiobook of it on release day, actually. The audiobook was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed the audiobook. I think if you can get the audiobook, that's what I would recommend, because it was just brilliant. This is also one of the only heterosexual romances this year, or one of the few, I guess, where I really liked the main male character. He had such a great personality. It was one where I really was rooting for him to get the girl in the end, and that doesn't usually happen for me with heterosexual romance books. I also really like the magical realism in this. The whole thing is like it's a matchmaking service, is how they meet. Well, they meet because she's in the matchmaking service. It's really cute, but the magical realism also felt realistic, so I would definitely recommend One and Only if you're in a little wholesome romance pick-me-up mood. We're moving into more mature erotica romance now, and we're starting with Fundamentals of Being a Good Girl. I picked this up because I heard people saying it was going to be like the next best thing, and it was just okay. I'd say it's a maybe. The spice is alright. It wasn't my particular taste, but it's fine. I don't feel any particular way about it. The characters, I will say, were very interesting. I appreciated how well-rounded the characters felt. There was a lot of kind of little personality traits that kept popping up throughout the book that I appreciated. But I'm going to be honest with you, the dialogue was not good. I didn't like the dialogue. I also didn't like the footnotes in this book. There are like footnotes at the end of every chapter. It drives me crazy. But yeah, the dialogue was really what ruined it for me. I would just say that this is a maybe. I think it's alright if you're looking for light erotica, but I don't really recommend it. Next up is Superfan, which is one of my books of the year. I'm going to buy this as soon as I can afford it. I love this book. This is a great story about obsession in music. I loved the kind of interaction between the pop stars and the fans. It reminds me a lot, I put this in my iPad journal, it reminds me a lot of kind of the discussions that were happening when he sung Left Enhypen. For those of you that don't know, I do follow Enhypen on my channel. And when I read this book, literally all I could think about when he sang Left was this book. So I do actually recommend this if you are interested in K-pop or you listen to K-pop. It's a very well done story on fame and obsession, and it is quite sad. It's very, very well done. There's a book that I talk about later that feels like the worst version of this. Superfan, to me, no notes. I had nothing I disliked about it. So next up is one I feel might be a little controversial. The book is Margot's Got Money Troubles, and I don't recommend this one. I actually read this when I saw that it was going to be a series, and why? Why is this a show? I feel like this could have been a fine movie, but I struggle to see how this is going to do well as a show. If you've watched it, let me know. I do think that this is great perspective on, you know, adult work. I can't say the word on YouTube, but on adult work and motherhood. I do think that the book has really interesting, unique perspectives that I've never seen brought up before. But ultimately, I felt like this book was overhyped. I didn't love it. I didn't go into it loving it. I didn't come away loving it. I'm not necessarily bothered that I read it or not. It's just not one that I would be like, yeah, you have to rush out to read this. I would be interested in knowing how the show is, though. Up next is a romance I actually read on Valentine's Day, and that is This Book Made Me Think of You. This is a maybe for me. I think, like, if you like the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, you may kind of prefer this sort of low-key romance sort of thing. But for me, it's just okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. This is a great one-time read, but I wouldn't reread it, which is also why I'm struggling to recommend it one way or the other, and I would just say it's a maybe. I think this is great for a wholesome pick-me-up, but I will say the romance, not spoiling it, but the romance that we do get in the book, I didn't like. I don't think we needed it. I do think this would have been better as a lit fic instead of a romance, so I'm just going to give this one a maybe. Up next, we have one of my least favorite books of the year, and that is The Pact by Lisa Walker. And no, I don't recommend this. This book is so slow. The whole thing is like a pilgrimage for a professor that passed away at their like super duper culty liberal arts college, but like nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. It was just a book about walking. I was so bored. Oh my god. And then the problem was that I thought, well, maybe the end, like the twist will get me, and then I'll be like, okay, well, it was worth reading it. The ending was so bad. I hated the ending so much. The slowness didn't add up to anything. The ending wasn't very good. And then it was like the twists that kept popping up. It was like, okay, this is all right, but it wasn't like, wow, what a twist. So I really don't like this book. I didn't like it when I read it, and I still don't like it now, so I don't recommend this one. So one of my niches this year has been fiction about women's group homes, and this book is no different. This book is a home for friendless women, but I don't recommend this one. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I feel like Donna Everhart, who did Women of a Promiscuous Nature that I talked about earlier in this video, I think she did it better. The timeline in A Home for Friendless Women was very confusing, and I felt like it was quite poorly written. I love multi-POV, multi-timelines, but even I was just like, wow, this is really confusing to me. And then the ending, I didn't feel like it really summed up everything that happened in the book. It wasn't a very conclusive conclusion. So for that, I'm going to say I don't recommend this book. Instead, I would go read Women of a Promiscuous Nature. So next up on the list of romances, we have The Next Best Fling, and this is a yes for me. I really enjoyed this book. I think this book is very cute, very fun. The characters felt very, very mature, which I appreciate. I hate when we have characters that are like, oh yeah, I'm in my 30s, and then they act like we are 12 years old. So I appreciated the maturity of the characters. It felt very cohesive. It really brought me onto the characters more. Angela is the best character in this book, okay? I will never hear a bad word ever about Angela, but there are a couple reasons that I did knock a star or two off, and that is the tropes. There's a couple of tropes, one I won't mention for spoilers, but that I cannot stand in romance that this book contained, and for that reason I did knock a star off. But in general, I would say this is a yes, definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have another erotica series by Sierra Simone. This is Markham Hole, and I did not like this book. Oh my god, I didn't like any of the books in the series. I do not recommend this series at all. First of all, check trigger warnings if you're going to read this. There are a lot of triggering scenes in this book. I listened to the audiobooks because my library didn't have the ebooks, and this was just okay. I didn't particularly like the narrators, if I'm honest. The power dynamics outside of the spicy scenes also really threw me. It felt very predatory. Maybe as a woman, I'm just more kind of used to noticing that with male characters, but it did not feel good outside of the spicy scenes. There was also victim blaming for assault in the last two books in the series, which really I did not like. I did not appreciate. None of these books was over 3 stars. If the audiobooks hadn't been so short, I would have given up. So this is a series I don't recommend. Keeping with spicy historical romance, I read The Duke's Defiant Angel for one of my library challenges, and this is just a maybe. It's alright historical spice. Again, it's not really one where I was like, wow, these are really well written scenes. Like, it was fine. It was a spicy scene. I didn't like the pregnancy trope. I'm calling that out specifically because I know it can be very triggering. Heads up, fair warning, period, that there is a pregnancy thing going on in this book. I didn't like it. Again, kind of going back to what I said about Markham Hole, the male character in this, it wasn't like, oh, he's so possessive of her. It's like, okay, dude, seriously, like, we have got to calm down. So the guy in the book felt predatory instead of like sexy possessive, and I just think this book is alright. This is a maybe, but I think there are better historical romances out there. The next book is a book that I absolutely recommend, and this book is Everyday Movement. This, to me, is a modern classic. I think this is one of the books that we're going to talk about for a very long time. This follows the Hong Kong uprising in 2019, and for me, I think this should be required reading. I think that kind of getting the message out about government and democracies and the power of people through litfic is very important. So I do recommend this. Again, check your trigger warnings, but this is one I definitely recommend. I also, again, loved the interconnected stories. I loved seeing how the characters' lives all intersected, but they were all based on the event, the uprising. I think that it was very well done. I liked the characters. It felt very human. It's definitely a book I would like to own. So yes, I do recommend Everyday Movement. I don't actually remember how I found this book. This book is Calling Invisible Women, and this is a no. I felt this book was really, really boring, particularly at the end. The narrative feels very non committal, for lack of a better word. What I mean by that is the book seemed like it was trying to make points about the hidden emotional labor of women and, how women go invisible in their families compared to the patriarchs of the household or the children. But it never then fully committed to that. Like, it started saying that, and then it was like, oh, but I don't want to say that. And I feel like you have to commit to the bit a little bit if you're writing the book like this. I didn't think it did that very well. Ultimately, as well, this is kind of forgettable. It's not one where it was unique enough to stand out in my mind. So for me, this one is a no. Alright, now we've gotten to my favorite historical romance book ever written of all time. It is The Lady Knows Best by Susanna Craig. Susanna Craig, if you're watching this, please, I love your writing. Please don't ever stop writing. This is one you have to trust me on, okay? I know that a lot of people don't like historical romance. This is a very progressive historical romance. I appreciate the fact that there is, women who are allowed to be independent while still addressing that wasn't common in the time. Absolutely loved that. I love progressive historical romance series. I have read this book twice in 2026, and it's only June. So that should kind of tell you how much I like this book. Also, the main male character in this, the female characters in all her series are really good, but the main male character in The Lady Knows Best is Viscount Miles Devereux. Oh my god, I will never, ever, ever stop talking about Miles Devereux, okay? So I need you to trust me and I need you to read the book because it is so, 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 so worth your time. February really was the month of romance because I read another rom-com called A Little Buzzed. This is about a woman who works at an adult toy company and a guy who also works at the company and their kind of relationship. This was just alright. It wasn't the knockout hit I was hoping for. It wasn't bad at all. I enjoyed reading it, but it just wasn't... I kind of expected it almost to be like a Weird Girl lit, and it really just wasn't. It was alright. If you like rom-coms, and you're looking for something spicy but lighthearted, I definitely recommend this one. However, again, check your trigger warnings, and I need you to understand that there is a scene with a golf club. And I can't say any more than that on YouTube. Genuinely, it gave me the biggest ick ever, so I did have to take a couple stars down on my rating because I was so repulsed by it. So definitely check your trigger warnings, but if you're looking for a kind of light-hearted, fun rom-com, this could be a good one for you to pick up. So next we're looking at Everything You Ever Wanted, and I'm telling you not to read this one, as much as it disappointed me because I really wanted to love it. The ending for me ruined the entire book. I didn't love reading the book, but it was alright. Like, there were scenes where I was like, okay, this is kind of worth reading it. The ending threw that out the window. Like, literally there was no point in reading the ending at all. So I'm giving this a no just to tell you that the ending is a complete waste of your time. Don't bother putting yourself through reading this book because of the ending. And then the other thing I didn't like was the pacing. On the one hand, it was like, wow, we're spending so much time with her life on Earth. But then on the other hand, it was like, wow, we're spending so much time outside of Earth. So the pacing was all over the place, but the ending is really the biggest reason why I don't recommend it. Next up, we have The Sofa, which I thought was going to be crazy. Like a couch goes missing? Like, that's going to be wild. It wasn't. I don't recommend this. First of all, I listened to the audiobook. I did not like the audiobook. This is nothing against the author for reading it, but I thought it was very monotonous. I didn't like the narration. The book as a whole, I found quite boring. Again, for a book about a scary couch, not much happened at all. It was also just, it wasn't scary. Like, it bills itself, I think, as a horror thriller. And it wasn't scary. Like, nothing happened. I almost wanted this to be more extreme in a way, because this was just like, okay, like, your couch goes missing, and then this guy is just like, oh yeah, my couch is missing. That was not worth me listening to the entire audiobook for. So The Sofa, no, I don't recommend it. Next up, we have The Astral Library, which I have actually spoken about on my channel before. This is a yes. I do actually really enjoy this one, even though I'm not a big romance person. I did enjoy this one quite a bit. I recommend this if you are, again, a lover of books. It's a book that loves books, if that makes sense. The magical realism I found actually very accessible. So if you are unfamiliar with fantasy or you don't read a lot of fantasy, this is not so complex that you couldn't get into it. I also recommend this if you're a history buff as well, because I like a kind of like Jane Austen books, I guess, like history books is what I mean. Or you're interested in classics, I recommend it. And this book also, I gave it an extra point because it made me emotional. And if a book can make me cry, it gets a good rating from me. Next up, we have one of my first Weird Girl reads of the year. This is Evil Genius. This is a maybe. I personally didn't like this book, but I am in the minority here. A lot of people really enjoyed this. If you like Weird Girl lit, this will get recommended to you, so you may want to give this a try. For me though, I almost wanted it to be more extreme. Like, obviously what happens in the book is extreme, but it was handled so lightheartedly, very dull narrative. It really just led me to want more from the book. In the end, I kind of felt like it was just alright. There were some really good scenes that I liked. There were, like, I love the setting, for example, but overall, this is just a maybe. This is probably one you're gonna have to try and rent from, like, your library and give it a try before you buy, because it was just alright for me. Next up on our kind of romance list, but also one of my first DNFs of the year, this is Still Into You. Yes, I picked this up because of the Paramore song. Okay, don't even come for me. I DNF'd this book. I think I DNF'd it on like chapter 7 or something like that. I felt like the dialogue was just, it was very cringy. It very much felt like YA writing, but in an adult book. And not kind of even like in a good way, but it felt very cringy. The characters were acting like they were in their teen years. I also just didn't feel like there was much chemistry between our love interests, so I couldn't get into the story and I ended up DNFing it. Also, I don't like metal music, so again, if you're a metal music fan, you may get more out of this than I did, but for me, this is not a recommendation. Very pleased to say I have another 5-star romance for you. This is And Now Back to You, which is a yes. This is so much better than First Time Caller, and I liked First Time Caller. I gave First Time Caller, I think, 4 stars. This was a 5-star book for me. This is so much better. I was deeply engaged with Delilah and Jackson, who are the main love interests, and they felt so mature. It was like adults dealing with adult problems and having adult conversations instead of letting miscommunication get between them. This to me, like I said, is way better than First Time Caller, and I do recommend the audiobook. Again, if you haven't listened to the audiobook for BK Borison's Heartstring series, I recommend it because you have like the little radio, what are they called, like between chapters, the interludes. So for me, this is an absolute yes. I thought that this was so cute and I really enjoyed it. For the final book in this Yes, No, or Maybe, we have Love Me, Stalk Me, which is a dark romance book. Highly recommend checking trigger warnings. This book deals with stalking. It can be very triggering. There is also an attempted assault. Please check your trigger warnings and mind your mind. This is fairly light dark romance as far as I can tell. I don't read dark romance, in case it's not obvious. I barely read romance in general. But this was on the lighter side of some of the other ones I've seen recommended. That said, obviously, still dark romance, so please check your trigger warnings. A big reason I didn't like this book as well, this book literally uses the word unalive. I don't mean it uses the real, I mean literally the narrative says unalive, and I cannot take it seriously. We are not putting TikTok slop into books. Why are we doing this? So yeah, it lost me at the end. I hated it by the end. This is just a maybe. If you're looking for lighter dark romance, you may want to give this one a try. I am going to check out book 2 when that comes out, but again, I'm not a dark romance reader in general, so take my advice with maybe a grain of salt, but definitely check the trigger warnings if you are interested in checking this out. But that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed this part of the Yes, No, or Maybe 2026 challenge. If you did enjoy this, please leave a like and a subscribe, as it really does help the channel. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are there any opinions you agreed with, any you disagreed with? Let's recommend some books for each other. But I appreciate you checking out this video. I hope you are finding this series maybe helpful or interesting or exciting. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.